It's Thursday, January 4th, and I'm just wondering if we'll ever be able to climb out of the mess that college football has become.
And now, a word from our title sponsor.
Are all financial advisors fiduciaries? Fewer than you think. Not knowing could reduce your lifestyle. Hi, I'm Mitch Kramer, founder and CEO of Fluent Financial. A fiduciary is a regulatory term to reduce conflicts of interest in wealth management. A fiduciary always works in your best interest. A non-fiduciary advisor might put their compensation or company ahead of yours. At Fluent Financial, we are certified financial planners acting as fiduciary advisors. To learn more, go to fluentfinancial.com or Fluent Financial's YouTube channel.
Now, you listening may not be in charge of purchasing seasonings for your home, but you do know what tastes good, really good. Goodness Steak Seasoning is terrific. No sugar, no MSG, no gluten, great flavor. Get Goodness Steak Seasoning by going to the website bringthetasty.com. Oh, hail. No, I'm not cursing. That's the name of a terrific Dallas roofing company in business more than a decade. They handle residential or commercial properties. And those weird insurance forms that seem to be written in a foreign language? Oh, hail can simplify those for you also. So the next time something happens to your roof, just say, oh, hail. O-H-8-A-I-L. OHail.com.
For years in college football, we lamented that there wasn't a playoff system. Well, we got that. And we realized millions of dollars in cash was being paid under the table and that cheaters got away with it very often. Now, we understood that the players, who are pretty much like employees, didn't get the kind of employee benefits that most employees get. Now, we sort of long for the good old days. And college football now is swimming in a cesspool of problems that appear to be unsolvable. Let's start with the college football playoff system this year that became a lot of controversy. Florida State went undefeated, but they weren't in the Final Four because they got their quarterback injured. They're the first undefeated Power 5 conference champion to not be in football's Final Four. But what might even be a bit worse is that Georgia isn't in. Georgia, number one and undefeated going to the last week of the college season, lost by 3 points on a neutral field to improving Alabama. The committee chose to drop Georgia all the way out. It's the first time a team number one in the country had lost in the final weekend and not gotten invited to the playoffs. And by the way, Georgia had won 29 straight going into that final game, and they were the two-time defending national champion. Let's go to Vegas to determine if the committee did the right thing. If Georgia were matched against the 4 teams in the Final Four, they would be a favorite by more than a field goal against the University of Texas, and maybe by a touchdown against Washington, and perhaps by a field goal against Alabama, and Michigan, probably a coin toss there. But all that pales to what else is going on. The bowls. We have more and more and more of them. And so many of them are nothing but pieces of junk. There were 35 bowls in 2010. Now we're up to 43 bowls. So 43 bowls, 2 teams, that's 86 teams that get invited to the bowls. Out of 133 Division I programs. That's right, 65% of all Division I teams will get invited to bowls. It's become so ridiculous that some teams with a losing record get invited to a bowl game. What? What kind of reward system is there when a team that goes 5-7 can say, "Oh boy, we went to a bowl"? Now, let's be honest. A lot of this is done for TV's sake, because a bowl game is, for them, pretty cheap TV. Doesn't cost them much at all for that kind of programming. Then let's now mix in name, image, and likeness, NIL, where athletes who never used to be able to do this can now market themselves, market their name, image, and likeness. And now, instead of being underpaid, underbenefited college employees, now some are making triple figures a week. Some are making $1 million a year. That's right. For some of them, they don't want to leave college to go to the NFL because they're making more in college than the NFL would pay. Whoa. And it's totally out of control. A couple of years ago, fully within the rules, A&M gathered $25 to $30 million in money to pay recruits. It's like the wild, wild west out there. Oh, there are rules, but there's no one to enforce them. The NCAA is a toothless tiger. It's like you going 100 miles an hour in a 50-mile-per-hour zone because there's no policeman. And that's what we've got in college football these days. There's virtually no policeman. Okay, now I got to mix in one other thing. The NCAA has passed, this is a good thing, the transfer portal. Players used to be stuck at programs, stuck on the bench, and if they wanted to transfer, they had to sit out a year. But now, if they want to transfer, they don't have to sit out a year. But now, you can do that twice. From your original school, you can change schools 2 more times and not have to sit out. And we got players jumping everywhere. The portal opened on the 4th of December this year. By the 7th, there were more than 500 players in the portal. In a couple of more weeks, there were more than 1,000 people in the portal. Some of them jumping for better possibilities, some jumping for major awards. Look at the Heisman balloting this year. Jaden Daniels, the quarterback at LSU, won that award. Michael Penix from Washington and Bo Nix from Oregon were runners-up. All 3 of those quarterbacks transferred to those schools out of a previous stop in college football. And remember that Texas A&M huge recruiting class from a couple of years ago? Hey, more than half that class is gone. They've jumped into the transfer portal. And we've gotten used to players not playing in bowl games because they didn't want to endanger their position in the NFL draft. They didn't want to get hurt, so they skipped out of the bowl games because they knew they'd be high draft picks. But now, with the transfer portal opened before any of those 43 bowl games were played, and players leaped in from everywhere. The quarterbacks of these teams had all transferred before the bowl game and did not play in the bowl game. Ohio State, Arkansas, Miami, Duke, Oregon State, UCLA, Boise, Oklahoma, Texas Tech. You get the picture. It's crazy out there. And it's made the bowls an even bigger joke because you don't have any idea who's playing in the bowls. By the way, Florida State, which was passed over for the Final Four, when that happened, several players jumped out because they wanted to prep for the NFL draft. Several more simply wanted to transfer. A few were hurt, and Florida State went into their bowl game with more than a dozen players missing from their roster. The situation is ridiculous. We now have 2 different recruiting periods for signing high school players. And that crazy transfer portal, which, by the way, is a benefit for college players, but that crazy portal, it's still open for 2 more weeks. And then there's another one in April. I understand the necessity of the transfer portal for college players, and I understand the NIL is something college players deserved. With all that's happening in college football these days, and what seems to be just ultimate craziness, you sort of long for the old days when SMU got the death penalty for slipping their players money under the table. How much? $500 a month? $700? $1,000? Shoot! Today in college football, that's not even tip money.
Today's episode has been brought to you by Fluent Financial, by Oh Hell Roofing, and by Goodness Steak Seasoning.
Just Wondering is a production of DSP Media for FanStream Sports. You can find Norm's show along with other great programming at fanstreamsports.com.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Just Wondering. If you enjoyed it, please hit follow. Then each episode every weekday will be delivered straight to you. And if we might ask one more favor, please share it with friends. I'm Norm Hitzges, and every day I'll be just wondering about something.
And I'm Mary Hitzges, and I'm just wondering too.